With the recent update in Black Ops 6, they went ahead and buffed so many of the attachments, making all the meta weapons just that much more meta. So today I have for you the top 5 guns with the best class setups. With the first gun being an honorable mention of the Olympia. So you only can use 2 attachments on the gun, and it's overall not that good just because it is a special weapon. But you guys are probably curious what to use on it if you do want to use it. It is good. It's just like the other shotguns are a little bit better. And then after that, we are going to be going over the LC10. For the stock, we only got one option. That's going to be the cutoff stock, just overall increase the mobility. The ADS speed's super slow, so you kind of have to use this, and the recoil control doesn't matter whatsoever. I prefer not to use a barrel on here. Maybe if I'm just only putting the this inside the enemies, like up, you know, then I'll use the short barrel. But overall, you're going to do a lot better if you don't use the short barrel. It's going to be, you know, just have a little bit more range. You get less hit markers, and you know, you don't really have too many shots, so you kind of need it. Now for the first gun on the list, it's going to be the LC10, one of the best SMGs in the game, and it's so good because you can use the rapid fire, and the rapid fire just got buffed, and so now there's going to be less cons of it. We're still losing a lot of our range and our recoil control, but we're not going to be losing as much recoil control, making it really easy to use a suppressor. This thing already has a pretty good TTK at like medium and long range, but now it's going to be killing 14% faster, and up close, not that good. But now it's going to be very good, where I always recommend the rapid fire on this gun. Now, if you are using this in Warzone, then I would use the overpressured rounds. It's just going to make the weapon, you know, just a little bit more consistent, and everything's just going to register better. Like I was saying, you're going to want to use the suppressor, making it a little bit easier to build up that streak. For the barrel, I recommend the long barrel or bolt velocity. If it's past 500, you do not need to increase it unless you're on Warzone. In that case, use the reinforced. Multiplayer, you're going to do better with that long barrel, maximizing that damage range. For the underbarrel, we are going to be using the Ranger foregrip. There's not that much recoil, but we want to move around very fast. Ranger foregrip is going to allow us to do so. And then for the last attachment, on the 5 attachment, we are going to be adding the ergonomic, cutting down on a lot of those delays, just allowing us to play very aggressive with not really having any cons. Now, you could take off the rapid fire, go over to the magazine, use the extended mag 1. That's going to be very good. But, you know, if you want to make it a lot better, very overpowered, which is the way I prefer it, you want to use the gunfighter build, so then you can tie in the extended mag with that rapid fire. And then we're going to go over to the stock, and we are going to be adding the infiltrator stock, allowing us to strafe very fast, making ourselves a impossible target to hit. And lastly, for the laser, you want to use the Strike laser, increase the hip fire to ADS accuracy. And so now we have a lot of range, no recoil, and a very fast TTK while also being off the radar. Probably my favorite SMG in the game. Next up, we are going to be going over the Krieg C, which is going to be the best AR, and it has the fastest TTK because if we look at that damage profile, we're doing 35 damage to the head, up to 42 meters with no attachments. Do you want everything in Call of Duty without having to play the game? Then you should check out my long-term sponsor, Guapsi. Guapsi is a team of real players that will load onto your account to legitimately grind anything that you wish. And this goes for all the recent Call of Duties and many other games. They will even get you iridescent so you can flex all the cool rewards. Seriously, there's no risk involved because they don't use an unlock tool. They legitimately play in your account. And I've been with them for a long time and haven't seen a single negative review. And so if you want to save your time and energy, check out guapsi.com. For the muzzle, I recommend you guys to add the porta compensator. This was another attachment that got a buff in the recent update. It's just going to make it so that first shot has no recoil. This gun has a lot of kick, and so it's going to remove that kick, as well as adding a lot of just that regular vertical recoil control. If you only use the gun at long range, or maybe if you're just spamming out so many shots, then I would use the compensator because it gives you like a general better boost to your recoil, but you usually can kill the enemies pretty fast, which the port is very good at that. Then for the underbarrel, we are going to be adding the vertical foregrip. This thing again has a lot of side-to-side bounce, more so than that vertical. So then we are going to be using the vertical foregrip, adding a 4% increase for that recoil gun kick and 35% for the horizontal recoil control. You know, you can even add a suppressor. You just have to hit the first shot. If you don't hit that first shot, you're gonna have a lot of recoil. You're gonna probably lose that gunfight. Then for the magazine, we are gonna be using the extended mag 1, bringing that mag size from 30 all the way up to 45, and you're gonna be streaking up. You're never gonna die, so it's definitely a must. Warzone, I would usually use the extended mag 2, or maybe if I'm on Nuketown trying to spawn trap. Then for the rear grip, we are going to be using the ergonomic grip, just since the gun is pretty good at close range. It's good in any scenario, so we don't really want any delays. And if we're using it up close, you're going to run into an SMG, and they're probably going to be able to get that shot off first. It's going to help you just, you know, have a higher chance to actually win that gunfight, since you're not going to have a delay when you slide into the gunfight. Then for the stock, we're going to be using the balance stock, making it so we can hip fire strafe very fast, which is very helpful if you want to shoulder corners, and then just get a general boost to your strafe speed. For the firebots, we are going to Warzone use the overpressured. Multiplayer, do recommend the recoil springs. Rapid fire did get a buff on this gun as well, but it's just the gun is so bouncy to where you're probably going to be a lot more consistent with the recoil springs, and that's what's very important. Oh, if you guys want to screenshot the 5 attachment, there you guys go. You can take off the stock if you're in Warzone, add the reinforced. That's going to be better for that. Multiplayer, I would use the balanced over that barrel. which the barrel you are going to want to use is going to be over here, and it's going to be the reinforced. A little bit overkill on that damage range, but now you're going to be able to get a 3-shot kill at basically any scenario on the map, while also having hit scan up to 45 meters since our bullet velocity is 900 meters per second. For the optic, I recommend the dot first MF reflex, and then you want to go over to the reticle and you want to maybe use that blue dot. I just, still got to unlock it on there, so I'm going to throw in that green. Right here is going to be the best gunfighter Krieg build in the game. Absolutely phenomenal. So incredibly simple to use. Now the C9, this thing just got a pretty big buff for that damage. I mean, for the rapid fire. So this thing already has a good TTK. The only thing that holds it back is that recoil control. So that's why you never really wanted to use the rapid fire on the gun. But now that rapid fire doesn't really bring down that recoil control too much, you're definitely going to want to, use it on the C9. And then you can, this game bugs out so incredibly bad. So for the first attachment, we are going to be going over here and we are going to be adding the rapid fire, increasing that TTK by about 6%, which isn't a huge buff. So if you want more of a consistent weapon, I know I said we're going for more consistency, but it's crazy how good it is with rapid fire. The recoil springs are also super good since they also got a buff, giving us about 3% more on top of that 10% that we already had. So recoil springs, definitely a very good attachment. For me though, I'm going to use the rapid fire with the suppressor, making it so I'm off the radar, making it so much easier to build up that streak. Warzone, I would use the monolithic just so you can take advantage of that damage range, since right now the build is going to have 495 meters per second, which is 5 meters per second lower than what I typically would want for my bullet velocity on an SMG. And yes, you can get it back with the reinforced, but I think it's a little bit more impactful to increase the damage range by adding that long barrel, bringing that up to 18 meters, which is honestly pretty good. And yes, you're going to miss a lot of shots, but that's until you add the vertical foregrip, eliminating all the side-to-side bounce, as well as giving us a little bit of recoil gun kick, making those iron sights just that much easier to use. You're going to be blowing through ammo, so I'm going to be going over, actually, for the 5 attachment, recommend going over to the rear grip. Same reasons as before. You want to use the ergonomic on like any aggressive weapon. You don't want any delays in your game. So right here, it's going to be my favorite 5 attachment. If I'm trying to find, just a more consistent 5 attachment, I'll use something like this, or I'll even take off the muzzle if I don't mind being on the radar. Use the rapid fire, and then another consistent right there. Shouldn't be too confusing. It just kind of depends on like the playstyle and stuff like that. Some people don't really care to use a suppressor. For me though, I would rather use 8 attachments, throw on the suppressor with the extended mag, having that rapid fire and the mobility and the damage range. Then we go over to stock, adding the infiltrator stock. The balance isn't bad, but we don't get that much hip fire movement speed, where I'd rather just max out that regular strafe speed. We can do just that with the infiltrator stock. Then for the laser, we're going to be adding the Strelak laser, increasing the hip fire to 80th accuracy, allowing us to like pre-fire those shots and just absolutely just dog on the enemies before they even realize it. Monolithic isn't bad. I would just take off ergonomic and use the quick draw. So now you guys got a couple variations. This is more of a ranged one. The other one is my personal favorite, just more in the middle. Next up is going to be the AMAX, which also got a buff. There's going to be a little bit less recoil on the weapon. The only thing that holds this gun back is the damage range and the bullet velocity. So we are going to be going over to the barrel, and we are going to be adding the reinforced barrel. The 8 attachment is so good on the weapon, and I highly recommend it, and you guys will see why. But with that reinforced, increase that bullet velocity over to 800, so we're perfectly fine on there. Damage range could be better, and that's why I do like the long barrel for an extra 5 meters, but reinforced is going to be a good balance of the middle if you're using that 5 attachment build. Then for the muzzle, we are going to be adding the compensator. This gun is super good up close, and so that's why the compensator is going to be better. Ported's better for those slower weapons where you let the enemies really push you and you prop up on a heady, which you do that with the CR, but it's so versatile that you can kind of diddy the enemies around, which is why for the rear grip, we are using the ergonomic grip. For the underbarrel, we are going to be adding the vertical foregrip. You can get used to the Ranger, but it's so simple to use, and you never die off any heady if you have the vertical. Like, the gun's just dumb easy to use, and you're going to be streaking up. You're never going to be dying, so the extended mag makes it so you don't really have to worry about reloading. Right here's a very good 5 attachment CR56. And then if you do want to use the 8 attachments and you're not playing Warzone, well, the build's going to be the same, but in multiplayer, you want to use the long barrel. Warzone, use the reinforced. So now with the long barrel, our bullet velocity is going to be horrible, like SMG levels. So then we can go over to the fire mod, add the overpressured rounds, increasing that to over 780, and we're maximizing the damage range. And that's why I love the 8 attachment CR56. Then for the stock, we are going to be adding the balance stock. allowing us to do the hip fire strafe as well as that regular strafe. And just the enemies shouldn't really ever be able to hit us. And you know, we could pre-fire a lot of the shots with the Strelok, or you can add an optic if you want, but I think you should be perfectly fine with this 8 attachment CR56. Incredible gun. Could even go over here and add a suppressor, but I just don't really want to miss any shots. But the last gun on this list, I've given a lot of setups for this gun, but I have to add it for this list. I know it's getting a little bit repetitive, and I have the absolute best gun in the game after this incredible gun. But right here, Swap 556 is going to be one of the most popular guns in Warzone, and still very, very good in multiplayer. So it doesn't matter what you're doing, you are going to pop off with it. It's just everybody always builds it incorrectly. So we're going to be going over here, and we are going to be basically adding the fire mod called the ground conversion. This isn't the part where people use it wrong, you'll see in a second, but this is going to basically make this from a burst all the way into a full auto. Gives us that clean front iron sights, which is going to be that what the growl is known for. Also increases recoil control and your movement speed. It's just there's a lot of flinch when the enemies hit you, so because it's a marksman rifle, so we have to use the combat stock, increasing that flinch resistance, also allowing us to strafe very, very fast, and just, you know, we're going to be a harder target to hit. And then for the muzzle, we are going to be going over here and adding the ported, since there is a lot of initial recoil in the weapon, so we have to use the ported so we can reduce that initial recoil, and then also just get a good amount of recoil control. And if you hit the first shot on the enemy, you're going to be able to win that gunfight like 9 out of 10 times. Like, this gun is incredible. It's just you know, you do run out of ammo sometimes, so we got the full auto extended mag, which is built for this gun. It also gives us a little bit of recoil control, which is pretty nice, and increase that mag size from 30 all the way up until 50. Then for the last attachment on here, we're going to be going over to the rear grip, and we are going to be adding the ergonomic grip. Quick draw grip is what I usually would use, but you can play aggressive with the weapon. There's not that much damage range, and so if you can get those kills within 30 meters, it's going to be super good. And sometimes you got to slide into that gunfight, so we got the ergonomic grip, allowing us to be very consistent. Don't really recommend the gunfighter on this, but if you want to use the gunfighter, use that ranger to make the weapon lighter. Strelok laser helping out with the ADS, and then just use the iron sights. But if you have to use an optic, I would probably use like probably just the Kepler on here. The Dotworks is pretty good, but I don't really see it, so probably Kepler on here. Right here is going to be the best 8 attachment, swap 5.56. For the last gun, we have the DM10. This thing is absolutely meta in Warzone. Still very good in multiplayer, and I really recommend you guys to use this class. And if you're on Warzone, don't take a screenshot of this class right here. This is more of the aggressive one. I have a better long range one that like you could prop up and win every gunfight at range, but this one, if you want to play somewhat aggressive, and so the bolt velocity isn't crazy. It's just you don't really need that much if you are playing somewhat aggressive. So we have the Volhisky reflex on here. I do see a lot of people use like the Remuda rangefinder. This is more so if you're on the bigger maps, or you just really, you know, want to win every gunfight long range, since it gives you recoil gun kick control. That's seriously very helpful on this gun. So big maps, use this one. Every other map, I would just use like the Volhisky. And then for the muzzle, we got the suppressor on there, keeping ourselves off the radar. Got the long barrel, since the bolt velocity is already pretty good. Might as well make increase that 2-shot kill, which 91 damage to the head. So you can't get a 1-shot kill, but you mix in actually you don't even need to get a headshot. You can just get 2 hand shots, 2 pinky shots, and you get a 2-shot kill. Just kind of bounces side to side a little bit, so the weighted handguard is going to do help. It's going to help on that. I know a lot of people would probably want the extended mag, but you don't really blow through ammo too fast on the gun, to where just being able to reload a little bit faster is actually going to be so much more helpful. Also increases the mobility, since it is a marksman rifle. It's a little bit heavier, and it just, you know, it's really helpful to actually use the flip mag. That's why we got the quick draw in here, to make it so we can ADS faster. And we got the recoil springs on here, just making it so the gun doesn't bounce as much, making it so much easier to actually take advantage of that 2-shot kill. Then we got the buffer weight stock on here, again for that recoil control. It is marksman rifle, so I wanted to use like the combat stock, which is still super good on the gun. You just don't flinch at all, but it's just the bounce is a little bit annoying. So that's why we have the buffer, and yes, it lowers the ADS, but again, that's why we have the quick draw on there. So a little bit personal preference on there. If you don't mind the recoil, then use the combat, but I mind the recoil, so I use that to remove it. Right here's a very good aggressive DM10. Now, if you do want to make this thing a little bit better on the bigger maps, and more so like a Warzone build, you have the monolithic suppressor on there, maximizing that bolt velocity and that damage range. Then we are going to be going back over here. We're going to add the Remuda rangefinder. Use that game twist barrel, since you're only using it at long range. Might as well just make it so it's hit scan. Definitely overkill for multiplayer though. And then we still got the weighted on there, the same flip mag buffer. Everything's going to be the same. Right here is a very good long range Warzone, more so, you know, DM10 build. And with all that said, that is going to wrap it up for this video. Hope you guys, you know, this isn't the honorable mention, but I hope you guys did find this helpful. If you did, make sure you guys leave a like, subscribe. I hope you guys all have a good rest of your day, and deuces.